Good day, everyone! Today, we will start our first topic or the week 1 of our module this third quarter. Our topic is about the concept of disaster and the risk factors underlying disasters. In this module, you will be exposed to the different types of disaster. But before we start, kindly answer the few questions under lesson preview activity. Please pause the video for a while and then look at the picture and then answer the activity. You just have to fill the missing letters to identify each type of natural hazard or disaster. Now, let us watch the video before we proceed to our topic.
Yan! Walang nga daw eh, hindi tubig, buhang. Grabe pa rin. Sana kaya lang yung current ng tubig, hindi ko na kaya eh. Mayang malakas na pagpapunta na rito, kaya hindi na kaya.
Dahil lampas na ng bewang sa looban ng kanyong halos kadipdip na yung tubig. Kaya lumilikas na, nandito na lahat sa eskwelahan.
Yan po ngayon yung ilog dito sa ano.
The video contains some disaster that happens in the Philippines where a lot of Filipino suffer. So now, let us proceed to our discussion. Let's start it with answering what is disaster. So disaster is a serious disruption occurring over a short or long period of time that causes widespread human, material, economic, or environmental loss which exceeds the ability of the affected community or society to cope using its own resources. It is simply means that disaster is a sudden or great misfortune or simply any unfortunate event. So more precisely, disaster is an event whose timing is unexpected and whose consequences are seriously destructive. We have two classifications of disaster. The first one is the natural disaster. Natural disaster is a natural phenomenon that may cause loss of life, injury, or other health impacts, property damage, loss of livelihoods and services, environmental damages, and etc. The second one is the human-made disasters. These are the consequence of technological or human hazards. When we say natural disasters, it includes all types of severe weather, which have the potential to pose a significant threat to human health and safety, property, critical infrastructure, and homeland security. Natural disasters are also occur both seasonally and without warning. So, ibig sabihin, biglaan, like the following natural disaster. The first one is flood. So what is flood? An overflow of water that submerges land that is usually dry. Floods inflict more economical damage and loss of life and property than any other natural hazard. The second natural disaster is what we call tsunami. So what is tsunami? Tsunami is a large ocean wave that is caused by sudden motion on the ocean floor. It is a series of extremely long waves caused by a large and sudden displacement of the ocean, usually the result of an earthquake below or near the ocean floor. This force creates waves that radiate outward in all directions away from their source, sometimes crossing entire ocean basins. So, nagka-tsunami na ba sa Pilipinas? Yes. In the Philippines, the worst tsunami event in history is the 1976 Moro Gulf tsunami in western Mindanao. So, the tsunami devastated the coastal provinces bordering the Moro Gulf and the northern Celebes Sea. Tsunami waves were reported to be as high as 9 meters in Lebak, Sultan Kudarat. Our third natural disaster is drought. So, a natural disaster of below average precipitation in a given region, resulting in prolonged shortages in the water supply, whether atmospheric, surface water, or groundwater. Drought is what we call here El Nino, or yung tagtuyot, natutuyo yung mga lupa. Next is the landslide. So, landslide is a range of ground movement such as rockfalls, deep failure of slopes, and swallow debris flows. Landslides are among the many natural disasters causing massive destructions and loss of lives across the globe. A landslide, sometimes known as land-shaped slope failure of slump, is an uncountable downhill flow of rock, earth, debris, or the combination of the three. When the ground becomes saturated, it can become unstable, losing its equilibrium in the long run. That's when a landslide breaks loose. Our last natural disaster is the volcanic eruption. So, the volcanic eruption is the release of hot magma, volcanic ash, or gases from a volcano. So, volcanoes erupt when molten rock called magma rises to the surface. So, magma is formed when the Earth's mantle melts. Melting may happen where tectonic plates are pulling apart or where one plate is pushed down under another. Magma is lighter than rock, so rises towards the Earth's surface. Now let us proceed to the human-made disasters. The first human-made disaster is what we called fire. So what is fire? Fire is the product from a chemical reaction between oxygen in the atmosphere and some sort of fuel. So oxygen, fuel, and heat are needed for the fire to occur. So even with strict building fire codes, people still perish needlessly in fires. Some causes of fire are appliances and equipment. So any devices that generates heat like stoves, clothes, dryers, heaters, or heats up with extended use like computers or fans. Yan yung mga hindi nagpapatay ng electric fan. So that is the potential fire hazards. Next is the hazardous material spills. So, the escape of solids, liquids, or gases that can harm people, other living organisms, property, or the environment from their intended controlled environment such as containers. So, spills may occur in a lab manufacturing chemicals or in a nuclear power facility. Sometimes they occur on the road when large trucks transporting those materials overturn. Trains carrying hazardous materials can derail, spilling their contents. The last one is the nuclear and radiation accidents. So when we say nuclear and radiation accidents, it is an event involving significant release of radioactivity to the environment and which leads to major undesirable consequences to people, the environment, or the facility. So what are the risk factors underlying disasters? So we have here the severity and exposure. So the amount of exposure to the disaster is highly related to the risk of future mental problems. So at higher risk are those that go through the disaster themselves. Next are those in close contact with victims. At low risk of lasting impact are those who only had indirect exposure, such as news of the severe damage. Next is the gender and family. So, disaster recovery is more stressful when children are present in the home. So, kagaya nga ng kapag may nangyaring pagbaha, ayan, syempre merong mga bata o kaya naman yung mga matatanda. And the woman with spouses also experience most distress during the recovery. Having a family member in the home who is extremely distressed is related to the more stress for everyone. Marital stress has been found to increase after disasters. Also, conflicts between family members or lack of support in the home make it harder to recover from disaster. Next is the age. So, adults who are in the age range of 40 to 60 are likely to be more distressed after disaster. So, sila yung mas nababalisa after disaster kasi nga naman, they think that if one is in that age range, he or she has more demands from job and family. In general, children show more severe distress after disaster than do adults. Higher stress in the parents is related to worse recovery in children. The next one is the developing countries. So there is a strong body evidence that these risk factors can be made worse if the disaster occurs in a developing country. So disasters in developing countries like the Philippines have more severe mental health impact than do disasters in developing countries. This is true even with less serious disasters. Last is the low or negative social support. So the support of others can be both a risk and a resilience factor. Social support can weaken after disasters. This may be due to stress and the need for members of the support network to get on their own lives. So facts. What is the most powerful earthquake ever recorded on Earth? So the most powerful earthquake is the Valdivia earthquake, or also known as Great Chilean earthquake. So in 1960 is to date the most powerful earthquake ever recorded on Earth. It was rated 9.5 on the moment magnitude scale and generated a tsunami that caused damage over 9,000 miles away. So after earthquake kasi, nagkakaroon talaga ng tsunami. Next one, what is the strongest typhoon in the Philippines? So, the strongest typhoon in the Philippines is the Typhoon Haiyan, or yung tinatawag natin na Super Yolanda. So, it was one of the most powerful tropical cyclones ever recorded. On making landfall, Yolanda devastated portions of Southeast Asia, particularly the Philippines. It is one of the deadliest Philippine typhoons on record, killing at least 6,300 people in that country alone. In terms of JTWC, estimated 1 minute sustained winds. So, yung Yolanda is tied with Meranti for being the strongest landfalling tropical cyclone on record. So now, let us proceed to our activities. So the first activity is you have to answer this exercise. So how well do you understand disasters? Try the exercise below and see if you can explain the different examples of disasters based on each classification. Cite at least three national hazards that struck Philippines and choose at least one and explain on how it affected the country. Next activity is you have to write 5 examples of disasters based on their classification. So maglalagay lang kayo ng sa natural disaster, ano-ano, and then sa human-made disaster. Third activity, read and analyze the questions below and write your answer in the box. So, sasagutan nyo lang yan in 2 to 3 sentences. Okay, this will be your first performance task. We only have 2 performance tasks in the RRR. For your performance task, You just have to choose one of the natural disasters stated below. So after choosing your desired disaster, you will be going to make a 2-minute video tips about the things that you need to remember and do to avoid panicking when you experience this kind of disaster. Kasi 'di ba, kapag ka nagkakaroon ng disaster, ang unang nangyayari sa mga tao is nagpapanik. So magbibigay lang kayo ng 2-minute video tips na kailangan nating tandaan para or gawin para hindi tayo nagpapanik lang. So ito yung mga kailangan yung pagpilian. So, number 1, earthquake. Number 2, flood yan. Ayan, tsunami, landslide, drought, volcanic eruption. So, these are the criteria. So, number 1 is the content. And then, number 2 is the videography clarity. That's it for our week 1 discussion. Once again, good morning and have a nice day.